Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. We're doing a 3.5 inch 12 gauge buckshot shell here. I ain't done one in a while and I kind of wanted to. So this one is not similar to a load I've done before. This is going to be a 14 pellet double aught buck load, which is a little bit light for 3.5 inch 12 gauge. It's a 1 5/8 ounce payload without any buffer. However, we're driving this one to a little bit higher velocity than you would see with a 16, 18, or even 20 pellet load. Yeah, this is going to be closer to 1350 FPS. So I'm kind of going for Winchester's 14 pellet double aught buck load 3.5 inch 12 gauge at 1450. Using the long shot, I can't quite get it that high, and plus I've seen several people run those loads over a chronograph, and they're not running 1450, they're running like 1280, 1320, so not really even close to 1450, but this should get us around 1350. The components I'm using is a brand new primed 3.5 inch Shadat 12 gauge shell, a CSD 114 wad. Now this is the first time I've ever used these, never loaded a shell with them, so we're going to see how it goes today. This is I believe intended for 3.5 inch. They're a little bit shorter than the 3.5 inch TPS wads, though they are a better fit, especially if you're using powders like blue dot or steel that take up a whole lot of room, and little gun. Let me actually show you that real quick. Let me grab a 3.5 inch TPS wad out of my drawer, and here you go. That is the height difference. Quite a bit more room for, well, components. But yeah, the CSD is a little bit shorter, works a little bit better with the bulkier powders. We're using a 1/4 inch 20 gauge felt wad to provide some cushion for the lead, less shot deformation, better patterns, and it also brings up stack height to where it needs to be. Ballistic Products mix number 47 buffer, and for the pellets we're using my tumbled, polished, hard cast 33 cal double aught buck. Yes, 33 cal double aught does fit in the CSD 114. It is a straight wall design. The inner shot cup is straight wall, not tapered like the TPS, so you can fit the larger pellets in it, up to 33 cal. Normally I would also be using a Mylar wrap in here to help with flyers and stuff like that. Keeps patterns a little bit tighter, but I'm out of the My Thin Mylar wrap, so won't be using that today. Just know that normally I would be using one. We're using a 12 gauge Maxi Nitro card. This is cut in half for an overshot card. So to start this off, we need to slit this wad. I'm doing a 4 pedal 3/4 cut, and these were sent by Martin, so thanks Martin for sending these. This is Gary Caskey's adjustable 4 pedal 10 gauge wad slitter. It obviously works for 12 gauge just fine too. It is adjustable. You just turn this brass dial, loosen or tighten it, and that lowers or raises these blades depending on how far down you want your slits. Again, this one is about 3/4 slit. Actually, I just remembered something. With the CSD wads and the LBC wads, you want to slit those all the way down to the bottom because they have a tendency to not let the pellets leave the wad, or at least the bottom few layers. So what we're going to do is, you get to see this in action, loosen this until we have the blades flush with the top of the wad slitter, because we do need to slit that wad all the way down to the bottom. Lucky I remembered that. You don't want your buckshot load turning into a slug all of a sudden. We have it right here. Alrighty. Line this back up. Come on, there we go. And finish slitting that. There we go. Slit right down to the bottom of the wad. You need to do the same thing with the LBC wads, like the LBC 50, the 53. Yeah, go ahead and slit it right down to the bottom of the wad. And make sure you have it in the, right here you can see it. These do have hinges on it, just like the LBC wads do. Slit into those hinges, that way the pedals open up easier, more reliably. But for the powder charge, we need 31 grains of long shot. You could probably also use blue dot here. I haven't tested it, but this being a shorter wad, you could probably use the blue dot and still fold crimp it. I don't know the powder charge you would need for blue dot because, again, I have not tested that yet, but I'm sure we will down the line. Says 31, double check it. Yep, we have 31. And again, that was long shot powder. Now, grab your CSD 114, set that in. Let me see if this actually can be pushed down with the, sure can. The wad seating punch on the Lee presses. The CSD 114 has enough inside diameter to actually fit that primer seating punch to seat your wads. That's pretty cool, pretty handy. Your 20 gauge 1/4 inch felt wad. Could also use fiber cushion or cork, whatever you have. I have felt, so I'm using it. Now we need 14 pellets of true 33 cal double-aught buck. One of these is powder coated. The rest of them aren't. They're just tumbled and polished. These stacked by twos. Guys, you might actually be able to get 34 cal in here. The 33 cal fits a little bit loose. The total lead payload weight is 1.65 ounces, which is just a fuzz above 1 5/8 ounces. So we can buffer that up to a 1.7 ounce load, just a fuzz under 1 3/4. Still using my homemade powder and shot dipper because I can't find my actual powder dipper. That's okay. This thing functions just fine. Using, again, mix number 47 buffer. And this should be a 1.7 ounce load with the buffer. I know that because I've loaded a bunch of 14 pellet double buck loads before in other wads, 3 inch. And yes, we have 1.7 ounces exactly. I just knew offhand how much buffer it would take. 1.65 ounces plus the buffer. I just knew it was going to be a 1.7 ounce load. Now we need the 12 gauge overshot card, and once again this is a Maxi Nitro card, just cut in half. And stack height looks like it's right. Let's go ahead and crimp that. I'm going with a 6-point crimp, the back station on the Lee Loadall. Here's the pre-crimp, looks just fine. And yes, it looks like the stack height is right. Again, first time loading this. Oh yeah. Very nice. Yeah guys, check that out. Crimp came out just fine. Not bulged out anywhere. Hull isn't crushed. That one came out just fine. Can't wait to shoot this. Well, that worked out pretty well. Now off camera, I will hit this with a Guide B&2 to taper it. The Lee Loadall doesn't really taper new hulls, but it will the once fired that did have a taper on it. So yeah, I'll hit this with a Guide off camera. But yeah, that's a great looking shell, guys. It's not often that I get on here and experiment with loads that, you know, I haven't loaded before, but this seems to be a fairly good one. We'll do a 3.5 inch 12 gauge buckshot video here pretty soon, and hope you guys enjoy it. Yeah, I love 3.5 inch, whether it be 10 gauge or 12 gauge. I also love buckshot, so combining the 2 or 3, it's just a match made in heaven for me. It's also good to know that the 33 and possibly 34 cal will fit in the CSD 114 wad. That opens up a huge range of possibilities. But guys, I think that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month, and you guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram and Rumble accounts, will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.